Hello. It's another beautiful, calm but yet slightly windy winter day. Mild, I would say. A nice light snow coming down. It's been snowing steady since yesterday. The shape and size of the snowflakes has changed many times since yesterday. Now it's almost like a light mist coming down. So, not too bad. I think my phone can handle it. So we're on our way to a tree that I thought actually was no longer here. I thought at some point that we had cut it down, and I'm so glad that we didn't, because it's a nice example of this species of tree. It's one that has some significance to it that I'll talk about here in a second, but it's also just a nice tree. It's not a great producer for maple syrup, but that doesn't mean anything, especially not at the spiritual level. What utility we can get out of a tree is not indicative of its value. And it's easy, especially when you're doing stuff like at the physical level, like maple syrup, to get lost in the physical plane of things and only see things for their value in terms of what can it give me, what can it offer me, what can I do with the wood or the sap or the bark or the leaves, and there's nothing wrong with making stuff out of it, but it's just not the only value that a life form holds. As we know, life holds value of all kinds, right? At the physical, spiritual, emotional, mental level, all levels. So, and that's really not based on what these species can do for us. We're supposed to be the caretakers of the forest, of the earth. And in that, we take care of them, they take care of us. It's really more of a brotherhood, sisterhood type of thing. And we're one, right? Let's not get confused here. All right, here we go. So, physically, and I like to start with the physical properties of the tree. This is a silver maple, okay? We're gonna do a double shot today of maples. And I'll give you a shot of it here first. Let's take a look at the bark. It's a big enough tree. Couldn't even estimate its age. I want to say 30, 40 something, maybe more, 50. I couldn't even tell you. That's a guess. Strange thing about this tree we noticed yesterday is it still has buds on it for some reason. So the sap has been a little off on it. So again, regardless of what that does for our syrup, this tree may be sick, and maybe it's not a good idea to tap it. We actually stopped tapping it a couple years ago. It just wasn't producing, and it was probably just stressing out the tree for nothing. So we stopped tapping it, and I don't know why I have a false memory of cutting it down. Maybe that's part of the message, is that it's still here. Now, for those of you that may not know me too well, I name my trees. I don't remember all of them, but I definitely remember this one, because this one's dedicated to my friend Alain and his family. Alain Daou, a known regenerative agriculturalist, a permaculturalist, really good guy. And I dedicated this tree to him and his family. And it's fittingly called the Permaculturist. So it holds the promise and the potential of humankind working alongside with nature in a partnership. And it's very fitting that that topic of conversation came up a few minutes ago, because this is what this tree's energy is all about. I have to be careful because there's thorns all over the place here. The prickly ash is abundant in this area, and it's already found me and hooked on. Oh, that's actually not a thorn. Hello. Let's get in here. So for me, and this is where I live, so I've gotten to know the trees and what they look like, and I can identify these type of trees now, the maples, as being maple, simply by looking at them and just recognizing their bark. I had asked my uncle one time, who spent a lot of time here with my grandfather, and I said, how do you identify the trees? Like, is there a trick to it? Is there something I should look for? And he's like, no, this is a maple. You just know. You just get to know them. You get to recognize the patterns in the bark in an almost non-logical, non-conscious way. Your brain just recognizes the patterns after a while, and once you get to know what the maple pattern looks like, you can see it in a silver maple or a red maple, which is what we're about to see next. Spoiler. And the sugar maple obviously has its own characteristics, which we can actually, there's one right there. So that one right there that splits off into different directions is a sugar maple. But you'll see in a moment that even the red maple has very distinct characteristics. The bark is different, the way it grows is different, but it's still part of the family of maples. Here we go. See? The messages are just coming through hard and fast now. So, having known Alain for many years, I know that he is a family man also, and he is deeply dedicated to his family, and this tree is most certainly giving me the message of family and unison and cooperation and equilibrium, balance, all those good things, all those good things that we often strive for and we look for in our lives. We look for it in all the little corners and all the crevices, oftentimes not realizing that the big puddle of it is like right there in front of us, and we don't need to look in the little cracks and crevices. It's right there, and it's usually just a matter of acknowledging it. So this tree it's bringing forth messages of gratitude, also, and appreciation, specifically for family and for friends and for connectedness, and also that same energy in business, right? Which I also know Alain to have a very similar attitude in his business ventures. He has that same integrity and that same level of ethics and morals and character, very high character, and he's someone that I look up to and that I admire, because he tries his best to live an authentic life. And I think by thriving in these sort of cooperative environments with others and in a natural environment, that's inevitable. That's what will naturally ensue, is just another level, a way higher level of connectedness and belonging. So we'll leave it at that, but man, thank you. It's strange when you dedicate a person to a tree, it's almost like their energy gets in there, and the energy of the tree gets in them, and it's a beautiful exchange. It's all happening through you, the conduit, I want to say dendrophile. I don't know if that's the right word. Disregard that. Cut that one out. That one's for one of the blooper reels. I don't even know if that's the right word. If it is, then I meant it. If not, it was a joke. But yeah, I mean, I'm developing the idea slowly of a sylvamancy, which I think I may have talked about it in one of the previous episodes. That sylva is Latin for forest, and the mancy being the divination, spiritual connection part of it. So forest mancy, essentially, and I think it's possible to tap into someone else's energy through a tree. I know it sounds crazy, right? But for me, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I dedicated this tree to Al and his family, and it's almost like he's here in a way. Like I sense his energy. It's a very strange but yet familiar thing, right? And I know that we've walked, him and I, in these woods and probably hung out in this exact spot. He knows that this tree's dedicated to him. We probably tapped it and talked about it and stood in this exact spot and tapped this tree several times with his family. So I'll leave it at that. Love you, brother. Thank you very much for your beautiful insights. Appreciate that. Deep gratitude for both this tree and my dear friend and his family. So we'll move on to the red maple. And I don't mean to hurry things along, but I want to try to keep these videos under 20 minutes if we can, so that they're sort of like micro or express connections, just to sort of prove a point also that you don't have to have a lot of time for spiritual practices and little rituals or ceremonies, whatever you want to do. Just go hang out with the trees. You don't even need a reason. You'll feel better if you do. But look at this one. Look at the difference in this maple. Physically, the bark, right? Like I said, the way it grows. Look at the fingers coming out of the middle here. It's quite unusual. Now this one took some damage over the past few winters from ice storms and different things like that, so we've had to clean it up, and it's almost like the sun wanted to come out there for a minute. Mostly overcast today, and I thought maybe the sun was trying to come out. So it's okay now. It has one branch up there that's broken, but it's fine. It's still in good health. But look how different this bark is compared to the last one, you know. Look at the moss that's chosen to grow on it. Look at the way it scales off, you know. It's not like some of the other trees we've seen where even though it peels like this, it's still affixed, it's still solid. Like this is quite loose. It would break off pretty easy if I leaned on it or pulled on it. So different in that sense. And then right above the moss line here, it totally changes. And then now it almost looks like a silver maple, a young silver maple up here. So even different characteristics at the bottom. And I think what I'm getting from this one, again, this is a red maple. I don't know if I mentioned it or not. Red maple, this is the only one that I know of that we have, and we've tapped it every year almost, and it's a good producer. It's kind of, the sap is in between. It's in between silver maple and sugar maple, so it's a little more on the watery side, but also much sweeter than the silver maple. The silver maple is quite watery, and obviously sugar maple is the sweetest, but red maple is like somewhere in between. But what I'm getting from this tree is the message is in the bark and the way that it's growing. It's speaking to the difference between who we were in our past and who we are in the present and who we become in the future. And what it's, let me just double check, but I think what it's also speaking to, a similar message as the last one, but different, but unique, is that though it looks different at the bottom, in the middle, at the top, look, if I took a picture of the top of this tree, and then the middle of this tree, and then the bottom of this tree, you might think these are three separate trees because it looks so different at the bottom as it does in the middle, as it does at the top. But it's a reminder that time is an illusion, and that this is the same tree. This is the same tree as it's always been, and it will always be. though it has changed drastically and gone through many things in its life, it's still the same tree. It's physically different, but it's still the same tree. So it's a message of identity, but also it's a revisiting again of authenticity and living to a higher standard, living to our own standard and being true to our own way. I want to make sure I leave room for any more messages from the tree versus my interpretations of things. I'm just going to be silent for a moment and give the tree an opportunity to convey any messages. Again, we have to remember that trees move slowly. They're slow-moving creatures compared to us, like go, 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 constantly non-stop moving. So we have to give them a moment to sort of catch up. Or maybe for us to slow down, probably since they're so much wiser than we are. It's probably just a matter of us slowing our minds down. It's showing me a sun, like almost a jewel, a light. Yeah, you got a nice sky here, my friend. I think this is what it's showing me. This tree, I think, is so healthy. It could be even the reason why there's only one red maple here on this property that I know of, or at least one that's been identified so far, is because it has such a beautiful spot here. It's a relatively dry space between two wet spots. There's a little creek behind here, and then there's like an unfinished pond here that stays relatively wet throughout the summer and spring. But it has a massive sky here. Yeah. It's a message of light and hope and clarity and openness. You know, if I were to combine these two messages together, and I apologize to who I dedicated this tree to. This is an example of, I don't even want to guess because I'm torn between 2 or 3 different people, and I don't want to insult anyone, and I don't want to dishonor anyone or the tree itself. So I'll refrain from guessing who it's dedicated to. But I have a guess, I have a feeling, even though I won't utter it out loud. And it would be tied to a very bright spirit. One that has recently found family. And I think that's where these two trees tie back together, is through the clarity of prioritizing family and connectedness over other things that are not as important, that we might get convinced at times are more important. We get lost in them and we lose track of time and maybe people that we should be phoning up every once in a while and or connecting with and saying, how you doing? How you been? Yeah. It's a message of those 5-minute how you doing phone calls being more appreciated than you might think by those family members or friends that you haven't talked to in a while. Just checking in, right? Just checking in. It's a gesture of care, consideration, and love. Yeah. Being that it's the red maple, it makes perfect sense that it would end with a message of love. It's definitely a tree of great compassion. a huge temperature difference from the top here. This bark is feels very different temperature wise than the bark down here. Thank you, my friend. That was a beautiful message too. They're all just beautiful. I'm so thankful, so grateful to have this. You know, very easy to fall into a state of regret. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have spent more time out here. Should have done this. Should have done that. That's not what occurred. That's not what became of your reality, and therefore the shoulda, woulda, couldas not really helpful. Not really helpful to you or to anyone else. It's really an insult to your entire existence to not learn from these things as you go, or at least not try to learn. I feel a bit mixed emotions. I'm going to keep walking. It's a little bittersweet, I think is what it is, because that's what it is to love. To love is to know that you will lose one day. You will lose that love. Maybe not in all forms, but love is maybe not yours to hold or to hold on to. It's something that we're very fortunate to be able to experience in our lifetimes, but it's not ours to keep. It's maybe ours to return to. Return to the source of all love, that is. But it's not ours to possess. Love is the gift that's imparted to all things. Because love, I think, is existence. It's the ability to exist. It's the ability to even conceive of the idea of love. So, anyway. We'll leave it at that. I could go on and on and on, but like I said, I wanted to keep these videos around the 20-minute mark, and we're already over on that, so hopefully you're appreciating the raw nature of these videos. I'm trying to keep them as unedited and unpolished and raw as possible, simply for the fact that it's counter to what I would normally do. I would normally do the exact opposite of this and have everything be in landscape mode and be heavily edited and polished and refined. With this series, I said, no, we're going to do things raw. Oh, a fox. Red fox. Oh, he's beautiful. Big one. Oh, I've been blessed right on the tail end of this video with a little visit. Scaring it away, so I know they come around to these woods often enough. Not sure if I mentioned it on this series or not, but we have a big rock nearby here that's called Offering Rock, and we'll leave things, either animals that have passed away on our property or any leftover food scraps, those kind of things. Every once in a while we'll bring an offering out here, so they know that it's a source of food, occasional food. We don't want to spoil them too much, but we have an agreement. I wouldn't normally talk about this on any other series than this, but we have an agreement with the fox spirit to leave our chickens alone in exchange for regular offerings, and it's incredibly been super respectful of our agreement. Even though I know that this vixen has cubs, or kits, I should say, that it has to take care of, so I'm honored that it would even, as a trickster spirit as well, even consider honoring that agreement. But hey man, honor among thieves, right? I'm not sure what that means, but that was super cool. It was so easy to see her because everything is just white, and I just see a big patch of like bright orange run across my vision. It's incredible. So I mean, I'm so grateful and appreciative. Finally, I have this mindset of like, dude, you're so lucky to have this. I feel it now. I'm not trying to convince myself of it. Like, I know that this is a gift, a very, very sacred gift. And I want to show as much appreciation and honor that gift as much as I can. Wow, that was beautiful. I don't see her anymore. She's gone. Long gone. Or probably sitting here in a bush watching me. Yeah. A lot of stories I could tell. A lot of stories I could tell about the foxes around here. About Offering Rock. We'll save those for another day. What a great way to end this episode, though. We had to go a little long because I had a visitor, or rather, I came across a roommate, a co-inhabitant, another member of the forest. And she was beautiful. It makes me want to set up my trail cam again. I want to say we've caught that one before, but it could very well be another fox. There's lots of them around here. There's coyotes and coy wolves and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. All right. We'll end it there. Hope you're appreciating this series, my friends. If you do, we'd really appreciate your support. If you could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I don't usually try to put a lot of pressure on the audience for that kind of thing, but the more that you guys support this channel, the more people will find it through the algorithm. Our views are quite low, and I don't really care about metrics or analytics, but really my concern is reaching as many people as possible and spreading the message of the healing of the trees and the amazing connection that you can have with them, and the magic that is waiting in everybody's backyard or local park or potted plant. And yeah, really appreciate your viewership and everything that you guys do to support the channel. Well, thank you, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Oh, and one last thing. The best part about talking to trees, they always listen.